How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Athletes Hub. Back again with some more news and some more debates. And joining me, he's also back, is Mr. Flexx.
Yes, I'm back. Like I never left.
It's good to have you back. Good to have you back. Listen, Flex, we're almost at the Christmas period. I mean, how are you finding it? You looking forward to Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, this is where we get loads of games, and as well as that, we get a bit of respite from, the busy work schedule, busy life schedule, all of that good stuff. So, yeah, man, Christmas period is always welcome.
Yeah, that's it. I guess to add to that as well, good food, obviously coming from the Ghanaian households, we know how important food is during this time of year. So we'll definitely be indulging in that. But listen, let's get straight into the football, man. It was a busy weekend of games. And I think the best place to start is probably, I know Wash Your Way covered a few of the trending topics regarding United, also regarding Mohamed Salah, who we'll speak about later on. But I think it would be good to sort of start at St. James's Park, Newcastle 2, Chelsea 2, and I think Reece James. Listen, Newcastle were great in the first half. They probably could have scored about 3 or 4 goals. Actually, they were on top for a significant amount of the game. And then second half, Reece James was the catalyst for the comeback. It wasn't a win, but managed to salvage it to 2-2. I thought Reece James was outstanding against Newcastle, to be honest. Not just his free kick, but his overall play. Made that interception to deny Walter, also maybe Harvey Barnes at the very end as well. What did you make of his performance? Because when he's at it, he's awesome. So what did you make of his performance on Saturday?
Man, he's a great player. That's undoubtable. It was always about could he stay fit, and this year he's proven that he can stay fit. But I wonder why. Is that because of the World Cup? You know what I mean? But that's how some of these boys are. But he's definitely, been one of our best players this season, especially, playing in, some would say, out of position. I remember when he was coming through the ranks, he would often play in centre midfield, especially when he was on loan at Wigan. He played, throughout in that position. So it's not a place or position that he's not comfortable in playing. And yeah, man, we've seen it time and time again that, if we need someone to stand up and be counted, he's definitely one of those players that, stands up. And he's proven that. Overall, with the game 2-2, going to Newcastle at lunchtime kickoff is always difficult, man. Always difficult. And, I would have been, if before the game you said, "Oh, will you take a point?" I would have said absolutely, because that's a terrible place to go at lunchtime. So happy with the point. Not exactly happy with the performance as a whole from the collective 11 on the pitch, but we move. We'll take that. We'll build on that, and hopefully, just try to stay within touching distance of that, 4th spot. And we'll take it.
I think touching on Reece James as well. I know you mentioned, sort of him being fit for the World Cup. I think Reece James is one of those players who has just struggled with injury. Right, he's had no luck when it comes to injuries, and again, when he's fit, he's a great player for not just Chelsea but for England as well. You're talking about the wing back positions. The way he's built, he's quick, he's powerful, he's got a great set piece delivery. He can cross. He's almost a perfect modern fullback, right? When he's fit and he's going. And even I watched him against Arsenal when Chelsea went down to 10 men, and he pretty much dragged Chelsea through that. He played in the middle that day, I remember, and he was great that day. So he not only just plays on the wings, but also in the middle. He's got the ability to control the ball because he's very good on the ball. But as a modern fullback, the way he's built, he's kind of got all the perfect attributes, right, to succeed in that position and be a great solution, not just for Chelsea but for England as well. But did it surprise you how? Because I think Newcastle, listen, remember, they're coming off the back of a defeat to Sunderland in a derby. They're going to be raring to go. They want to prove a point, and they're going to start quickly. Did it surprise you how lackluster Chelsea were in the first half?
Nah, not surprised. Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, going up there, St. James's Park, or should we now call it the Reece James's Park, you know what I mean? And it's a tough place to go, man. The crowd really do get on top, and Newcastle do play 100 miles an hour, when they are playing at home, and they feel the energy of the crowd. So yeah, it's a tough place, man. It's a tough place to go. So not surprised. Like I said, we should be better. I think we might have gone there with the mindset that, when decent enough form, we'll go there and we'll do what we got to do. But it's not always the case, and that's a learning curve for the boys.
I'm not sure if you saw Enzo Maresca's comments a couple of weeks ago, where he was upset with someone. He said that, that 48 hours. I think it was the game before. Who did you beat 2-0? Or was it last week at home?
Last week at home, 2-0.
Yeah. And Maresca came out with the comments post-match saying that it was the worst 48 hours he's had at the club because people didn't support him. I'm not sure if you saw the comments in his press conference that week.
The last game was Cardiff, but Everton was 2-0.
Yes, that was the one. Yeah.
Yeah, Everton at
home. It was the last Premier League game at home at Stamford Bridge.
Even just to touch on it, like the Cardiff performance was bad. Like Cardiff actually played really good football, and if I didn't know Cardiff were not a League One side, I would think that what division are they actually in? Like they were actually playing really good football. So, hey, I don't know, man. Maresca, I'm not totally sold on him, to be totally honest. But then again, I think maybe he's boxing with one arm because I think he has been given certain instruction by way of, only being able to purchase players under the age of 23, et cetera, et cetera. So, when you do get lackluster performances and you do see loads of red cards or whatever, it's because you've basically got a bunch of kids and they don't know any better, So that's just kind of.
Then again, I think you look at Maresca, you look at Chelsea, they have spent a lot of money in the last couple of years, right? They've spent big on players, and if we're looking at the players they brought into the club, you could always raise a question and say, well, the players they're signing, are they really enhancing the team? Because if you've still got an issue with discipline, and as you mentioned, it's still quite a young team, they're still signing all these players. So are they spending the money in the wrong areas, or like what's the problem there?
I think it's the club philosophy, man. It's hard to find young players that have the maturity levels of an experienced player. I mean, the reality is with the age of the squad, we should have, at least 2 or 3 players that are like 28 going 30, which can help in tough situations, calm the boys down, get them G'd up, all of these different things. But we don't have that. The closest we have is Tosin, and he's not even the best centre back at the club. So it's, it kind of doesn't really play out the same. So
who'd you say is the best centre back? Would you say Chalobah's better than Tosin?
Yeah, 100%. Chalobah, I would say Fofana and Chalobah are the best centre backs at the club, 1,000%. And then after that, you got Colwill, and then Badia Shield, and and then the rest of it. That's even before Tosin. Champong is a better player than Tosin.
So how's Tosin still getting? Because every time I watch Tosin, particularly this season, it feels like he's given a goal away. I even go back to the game against Sunderland at home, where Sunderland scored on a break, right, and he could have had a chance to just commit a tactical foul, but the play seems to get away, and Sunderland scores to make it 2-1. It just seems as if, for all of his experience playing, I think he's played at Fulham, I think it was at Man City at the beginning as well, right?
Yeah.
He's got a lot of experience, right? But it still seems as if he hasn't grasped that position, or he hasn't got the tactical know-how to when to make a foul, when to, as you said, to calm the situation down a bit. It seems as if he's almost always being carried, or every time I watch him, he's making a mistake, which is surprising for someone who's got that amount of experience playing in not just the Premier League, but also in the Championship as well.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely don't even know why we have him, but I know it's a free transfer, so you take what you can get on the free, right? So
true, yeah, that is true. So I know. Again, listen, Chelsea. So I guess you still believe there's a top 4 finish on the cards, and also Carabao Cup semi-final now as well. How do you rate their chances of the Carabao Cup? Do you think that's a trophy they can win?
Look, man, anything can happen in the cup, and I'm not like looking at it to say, oh yeah, we really need to win the Carabao Cup or whatever. If we win it, we win it. Not bothered, to be totally honest. I think it's more important to finish strong in the league and secure that top 4 finish and move on, so to speak. So even then, finishing top 4 is that threat. So we've really got to get our stuff into gear.
Yeah, the league right now is up for grabs. I think you look at the first and second position, you might say there's a few teams or two main teams who can challenge for that. But we look at the top 4 race as a whole, it's up for grabs this season because nobody can really grab that consistency you need for that push, right? So it'll be interesting to see how everyone else gets on there. But one player I want to touch upon is Mr. Morgan Rogers. And listen, United yesterday, another loss for Amorim after the 4-4 draw at home to Bournemouth. But I think looking at the game yesterday, there wasn't too much in it for me. I think Morgan Rogers right now is on fire. I think he's really grown into his own in the last few months. I think Emery's done a great job at Villa. 7 Premier League wins in a row. People are talking about potentially could there be a title race for Villa? I don't think there will be. I think top 4 is definitely on the cards for Villa if they carry on what they're doing. But Morgan Rogers at the moment is just on fire right now. And, for England, particularly next summer, if you've got someone like Morgan Rogers in your camp, along with all the other players in that position, they've got a great chance. What have you made of Rogers so far this season?
Look, man, not even just this season, he's been fantastic since he's broken through the ranks, and, come through at Villa. So, look, man, I think, again, it's a World Cup year, right? A World Cup season leading to a World Cup. So, all of these boys are really trying to put their best efforts and best foot forward to make sure they're on that flight. And, it's the same with Morgan Rogers. And look, 2 great finishes. Nothing the keeper could do about it. Could Lenny Yoro have done better? Yeah, but these things happen. And when someone is on form, sometimes it's just like whatever they do, it just comes off. And there's just, nothing you can really do about it. Will he stay at Villa long term? I don't know, man. That's a tricky one.
I think with these players, you're always going to get interest. Again, if he carries on doing what he's doing, right? But at the same time, you look at Aston Villa, you look at the journey they've been on. I mean, they've played Champions League football before. It seems like this season they've got a very good chance to regain Champions League football. There could be an argument that if they regain that Champions League spot, right, there's no reason for Rogers to move on because you're playing Champions League football. You're playing underneath a great manager in Emery. Just because a so-called bigger club comes calling doesn't mean you've got to jump at it. Because if Villa are playing Champions League football, he's come through the ranks, as you said. There's no real reason to move on from Villa, in my opinion.
You know what it is? It's more like, are you actually going to win anything at Villa? Like your chances of winning. I mean, it's one of those where, like, as bad as United is, as bad as Chelsea can be, and others, you still end up winning something. And that's not necessarily the case at Villa, and no disrespect. Like, if you look at the squad, you can't tell me that there's any world-class player in that squad. There just isn't, and that tells me that, for sure, you're not going to win anything because, especially if you're talking about you've got ambitions of winning league titles and things like that, it's not going to come from, being at Aston Villa unless there is a season like Leicester had where everyone else kind of just falls off differently or whatever the case is. And, you just kind of make it, which is this could be that season, like it could happen. But
I mean, you're right. I mean, Emery's building a very good team there. And you look at the goalkeeper, Martinez has won the World Cup. Matty Cash has, really improved as a right back there. They've got Onana, Tillemans, Camara in there. Ollie Watkins, McGinn, they've got a good team there, right? And you're probably thinking, well, if they finish in the top 4, that means more money to spend. Again, FA Cup is coming up, maybe go on a cup run, win a trophy, get some more money, and you're slowly building that team up, right? So there could be a case where you say, well, you probably won't win a big trophy there, i.e., a European Cup or a Premier League title, but the chances of a cup run are still there. And also Villa might say, well, we're still building the team. If we don't sell key players, we can still add to this squad, right? And we can potentially build a squad that challenges for the Premier League, maybe not next season, but the season after that, if this trajectory carries on. So I guess there's 2 ways, and you're right, he could definitely leave if the interest ramps up and obviously he carries on doing what he's doing. But from the other side as well, they're thinking, well, we haven't got to sell you because we're on a journey of our own as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. And the offer would have to be crazy for them to... have to let him go, or they're struggling with FFP or something. I mean, I read somewhere that they are not interested in keeping Harvey Elliott, which for me, I thought that was a great signing, but I don't know how that's not really worked out for him. And that's another player which I think, if given a good run inside, would be phenomenal. You know, well, I mean, I never thought Dewsbury Hall was a great player until he went to Everton, and I was like, man, this boy is actually, you know, he can actually play. Like, that's a pretty decent player right there. So I think, you know, big offer comes in, he'll obviously move on, but if not, then he'll just have to bide his time.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how Villa get on again, having a great season under Emery, great manager. It'd be interesting to see where they end up. But Liverpool, managed to win at Tottenham on Saturday. Isak on the score sheet, but unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be out for several months, probably end of the season actually, because of his injury he picked up on Saturday. I think it was a leg fracture from what we're hearing, and those injuries take time to heal. And it just, you look at the luck. He's come in. We spoke about Isak in the summer. The saga ran on. He's come to Liverpool. He's found it a bit tricky to settle down and get back to his best, to know what we know he can do, right? Scores a goal against West Ham, scores, against Tottenham as well, but picks up an injury in the process. I mean, it just seems as if there's no luck for Isak at the moment.
It's going against him, ain't it? It's going against him. Just when
I
you
read
think...
somewhere, though. I read somewhere. This is not me saying this, right? I read online that this is karma for the way that he left Newcastle. I don't know if that's harsh or not, but people are saying that it's karma, the way he left Newcastle.
So then, if that is the case, then we should see Johan Wieser, should also be getting his karma too, innit? And then all of the other boys that have, held their club hostage so that they could leave, we should see that karma as well. I think it's just Liverpool, just as a club, are just in a bad place at this moment. And, when it's like that, sometimes you just can't get around it. The only way through it is just to kind of go through it and just wait out that bad period. So, look, man, they say his leg is broken or something. I read somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's a leg fracture. And those, it's technically a broken leg, right? And those ones, again, you're looking at season-long, like you're out for the season. So
did Sweden qualify for the World Cup?
I believe so. I believe it did, yeah.
Golly, oh mate, then
we're talking about timing, we're talking about luck. It's just all not going Alexander Isak's way at the moment, to be honest. And but again, on the flip side, you look at Liverpool, you're thinking, well, they're starting to pick up wins now, right? I spoke about Salah last week, and he's obviously at AFCON now, and then Ekitike came into Liverpool at the start of the season, started off really, really well, scored on Saturday as well. Frimpong is back. So you're thinking, well, Salah's not in the picture at the moment. Isak, unfortunately, suffered this injury. That's a chance for maybe the likes of Frimpong, Ekitike to get a run in the team again. And maybe it might be a case of it's simple now for Slot. He knows who to play. There's no drama around positions now. So Isak's injury, in a way, maybe could be a blessing in disguise for Liverpool, because you haven't got the conundrum of, whether Salah play, whether it's Isak play, whether it's Ekitike play. Now it kind of fits itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it helps. It helps the manager. That is a fact. When these things happen, you as a manager sometimes, you're not praying for injuries or whatever the case is, but you want it to be kind of easy to be able to pick your 11. And sometimes it may not necessarily be your best 11 because of injuries and absences for cup competitions and things like that. But it does make it easier, like you said. It's like, okay, these boys are out. This is the team. Let's go. And if that team can, keep racking up wins and whatever, it's the job of those that are either injured or omitted for whatever reason to fight their way back into the team, And I hope that like Chiesa gets a good run, because that's a guy who always comes in, and I've always seen that he has an impact, when he does come on to play. But for whatever reason, he's just not favored. So hopefully he gets a decent run in the team. I'd love to see Ngamoa get another run in the team, and let's see where they can go. But, right now, looking at the league, they're literally tying with Chelsea, and you just can't write this crap. You look at it, you just think Liverpool have had such a bad run, and they're right there. And if you remember, we were discussing like a few weeks ago, maybe a month plus, Villa hadn't won a game or even scored a goal or whatever in like a whole month.
The first 4 matches,
And now they're flipping sitting third, and a few points, 1 point behind City. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
Honestly, from the beginning of the season until like now, the amount of managers we've put under scrutiny against Slot, we spoke about him maybe getting a sack at Liverpool, right? Amorim not surviving after Brentford game. these managers have managed to sort of turn it around in brief periods to the point where they're in touching distance of either the top of the table or the top 4 positions. Yeah. And that's because none of the teams are consistent enough. Tottenham, again, having a bit of a tricky time right now. Your club, Chelsea, inconsistent. United are, hit and miss as well. Liverpool, again, the same. So it's like you can't really, you couldn't call if you had to make a prediction from, obviously we did a review on this last week, but if you had to make a prediction of what the top 4, top 6 will look like, you couldn't make a prediction because it changes every week. That's how hard it is. Do you know what I mean? It is. But just a quick one. Do you think there's a chance that Isak could be, there could be a situation where we see something like Torres at Chelsea, where it just doesn't work out for him, it doesn't manage to settle and produce his best? Do you think we could ever see a situation like that?
Do you know what it is, right? I think it comes down to the Liverpool adjusting to Isak as opposed to Isak adjusting to Liverpool. Isak was thriving when balls were getting whipped into the box, and I hear time and time again from, Mickey Van de Ven, he said that the hardest striker he's played against is Isak.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's no slouch of a defender. That's a proper defender right there. And the way Liverpool play at the moment, they play with 2 selfish inside forwards, which means the striker never eats. And to be fair, it's always been that way since the Klopp era. How many goals did Firmino get?
I think Firmino's role as a false 9, his role was not necessarily as a goal scorer. His role was to draw defenders in, right? So the likes of Salah and Mane could expose the spaces.
That hasn't changed, But weirdly, Ekitike is still finding a way to score goals, So I think for Isak, I think it's more they would have to adjust to him and, play in a way that favors his capabilities, the same way where Newcastle haven't really changed nothing, Voltemada goes in, he slots in, they still pump balls into the box and he's a threat and he does what he does. So for me, I think that's what's needed. I don't think he'll be a flop. Will he put numbers on the board like we saw him do at Newcastle? Maybe not, because it gets shared around more evenly at Liverpool than at Newcastle. It's that whole theory of big fish, little pond, and then now the big fish goes to a bigger pond, and now you're just another fish in the pond. So that's just how that goes. We always bring up Isak, but I'm not going to let this happen. Florian Wirtz, he also needs to be brought into question as well, because we always say Isak because of the 130 million. Wirtz was 100+ million as well, and he's gone missing. He's on holiday, so everyone needs to also.
I feel like I mentioned, I feel like people have been given the spotlight at various times. Liverpool, and I think Wirtz is obviously not going to. He's been spoken about again. He's coming from a different league where he's probably having to adjust to the Premier League, right? And again, there's different. And Liverpool, I don't think in recent times have played with a specific number 10. They've always played sort of 4-3-3. They've had workhorses in midfield, and they've had the 3, particularly the 2 wingers or inside forwards, and then the false 9 who makes it almost like a diamond at times, right? Midfield. But I think with Wirtz, again, I think the reason why he's not maybe getting as much scrutiny is because he's come from Germany. He's having to adapt to the Premier League. Whereas with Isak, we've seen him at Newcastle rip up the Premier League when he wants to do it. Isak creates his own chances. I know you mentioned about him getting service, but some of the goals at Newcastle, he was creating on his own. He could pick up the ball from the inside, take a few players on the score, whether it's long distance, whether it's combinations. Isak was very much, did rely on service from Gordon at times and Murphy, but at the same time, he could create his own chances. Whereas I think with Wirtz in the team now, with Liverpool, I think he's now there to supply the likes of Ekitike and obviously Isak. But it just seems as if the chemistry is not there yet, because some players haven't played. Wirtz has been in and out, Isak's been in and out, Ekitike has been in and out, right? So there's not been a settled team week in, week out for them to build that chemistry and establish those patterns of play, if that makes sense. So maybe we can see that now with Wirtz. Again, listen, when you come from another league, Bundesliga, he comes to Premier League under with a big reputation. We expect by now to see something, a bit of glimpse of that. I think so far it's been a struggle for him. But again, Liverpool, it's been a struggle in different departments, Flexx. Defensively, they're conceding. The players who they relied on last year, when they won the title, they've been non-existent, right? And for the new players coming in like Frimpong, Wirtz and Isak and Ekitike, you're coming to a squad or a team that's underperforming and struggling for solutions right now. So it'd be very difficult for them to find their form. You know what I'm trying to say? We still expect more from them, don't get me wrong, but the team at the moment is just all over the place. So it would be difficult to see these players at their very best, probably until maybe next season, or maybe the second half of the season. We might see them just when the team settles a bit. We might start to see their very best there.
Yeah.
But from the top of the league to the bottom, Wolverhampton Wanderers. I said it before. They're down and out. They're done. Can you imagine why Rob Edwards took this job? Do you know? He said, "Listen, Wolves is his club. You know, he's from the Midlands." But when you look at him at Middlesbrough and then coming to Wolves, do you see any logical reason why he would have accepted the job?
You know what he said? He said he couldn't look back in a few years and have seen that he had turned down the opportunity to have managed Wolves. What a joke! Because Wolves are going to get relegated. And you might have got promoted with Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
So what the hell was you thinking?
But like, Flexx, at least run back to your point quickly. You saying that he said he couldn't look back in a few years' time and say he missed opportunity to manage Wolves, right? I'm sorry, they picked you when they were rock bottom. They didn't pick you when Gary O'Neill got sacked last year, right? They didn't come for you then. They got Vitor Pereira, who gave them a bit of a bounce. Now you're rock bottom. Now you've gone back to the guy who you know loves the football club, and as you said, won't turn down opportunity. But you got to remember, they picked you when they were rock bottom. So I mean, come on,
it's crazy. You know what? I have no idea. Maybe it's deeper than football. Maybe it's like, you know, he's got his family and all this other stuff because that's where he's from. Blah blah blah. So you know, kind of makes sense. But you can't save Wolves. Wolves can't be saved. They're done. They're cooked. It's over. It's over. Like, it's actually done. You know, like how does your team, right, score all the goals in a match, you know what I'm saying, to then keep Arsenal going? Like, that's ridiculous. Some would have thought match fixing. I would have thought it was match fixing. I'm not going to lie to you. I would have thought match fixing. That's ridiculous.
Crazy. I mean, look, 2 points set in the bottom of the table. Do you think they'll get another win this season? There's a chance they could go the whole season and not get a win.
Yeah, they'll get a win. They'll get a win because I think, you know, it will happen. You know, I think, you know, some anomaly somewhere, they'll get a win. But they're definitely gone. Like, they are flushed down the toilet. They're done. You know what I mean? Like, right now, they're planning for next season. They're planning for life in the Championship. Players they got to buy, players they got to sell, you know, getting their finances and whatever in order. And then guess what? He might see Middlesbrough in the Premier League. And then he might be sitting there scratching his head like, damn, you know, that could have been me. You know, now you're a Premier League manager now, but under what circumstances? And can you even rebuild Wolves to be a team that can sustain being in the Premier League again? I think it's over. They get relegated. That's it. You know, they don't come back to be a mainstay in the Premier League. I don't see it happening. It's kind of similar to Daniel Farke at Leeds. If he can't keep them up this season, they go down. That's it. Yeah. You know, they need to survive to be a mainstay. You know, so we can see that consistency there. But we'll find out.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. I mean, I think the Wolves chairman has recently stepped down from pressure from the fans recently. And I said it a few weeks ago when we spoke about Wolves, and I said, I'm sure he must have accepted the job knowing that, listen, this team can't be safe this season at least, right? And again, there's been a lot of talk about from Wolves fans about the lack of money going to the football club. They've sold a lot of their star players, like Cunha and Kilman. Obviously, Neto went to your club, Chelsea, and they've not really replaced these players, right? So I think there must be a situation where they've looked at Rob Edwards and said, okay, this man is capable of bringing a team back to the Premier League with no budget. You look at Luton Town, bringing them into the Premier League with a lack of funds, really, at the time, came in there. It was always going to be a really big task for him to survive, right? But he did that. He brought him in the Premier League. And they're probably looking for a character like Rob Edwards, who loves the football club, who's Wolves through and through, who will be in the job, right, and not demand a lot because it's his dream job, as he says, with a lack of funds. And they're probably thinking, well, this man's capable of doing it because he's done it before at Luton. I think that's the reason why they've gone for him in that sense, right? But again, you're looking at it, you're just thinking to yourself, like, he couldn't have imagined that he's going to take this job and keep Wolves up, because at the moment they can't defend. When they do score goals, you know, they concede straight after. I mean, it's not a recipe for survival, is it, to be fair?
It's a joke. It's a joke. But you know what? If this was like a Football Manager save, I would definitely try my hand at it.
Nothing to lose, I suppose, isn't it?
Nothing to lose. That's my time.
That's it. You mentioned Arsenal in that sort of sequence there, and listen, they won against Everton on Saturday. Gyökeres with the winning penalty, to keep that 2-point lead ahead of Man City. But there's still been talk about Gyökeres and style of play. Is he settling to Arsenal? There's still a lot of criticism from the fans about him not really being involved in games as much. Aspects of his game are still lacking. I think we probably did speak about him, at the start when he came to Arsenal, and we said, listen, this guy's got a great reputation in Sporting Lisbon. He's done really, really well there. But can he replicate the same numbers that he did in Portugal? The fans, some of them are kind of giving up on him at the moment. Like, what have you made of Gyökeres and his life at Arsenal so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be a bit challenging. You're coming to one of the most fastest, aggressive leagues there is. And so, the time you thought you had on the ball in Portugal and in the Championship and other places, you just don't have that in the Premier League. And it does take a period of adjusting. So I would say, look, he puts numbers on the board, and we've seen that throughout his career. So let's see what that looks like next season, But then again, I look at the likes of Mikel Moreno, who is a defensive midfielder who's scoring more goals than your centre forward. And he hasn't exactly, had a long time in the Premier League, but he finds a way to consistently put the ball in the back of the net. So does that mean that Arsenal are probably not playing to the strengths of Gyökeres? I think so. I think it goes back to the whole Isak thing, where somebody is used to getting the balls whipped in and he's able to be a presence and be a big body striker there at the top. But the team is so used to playing tiki-taka football and moving the ball from left to right and pulling opponents apart in that way, and it just doesn't suit his game. So we're not seeing the best version of him. And I don't think he can adjust to that type of football because technically he's not like up there. His whole thing is to be able to, bully defenders and then shift the ball and smash it. That's what he does. And Arsenal just don't play in a way that suits that type of forward. So we'll see him struggle until the team is able to, change their way of playing and deliver to him in a way that suits his nature as a striker.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I said to some Arsenal fans before he signed, I said, well, his job is to finish the chances. You look at last season when he had Havertz and the chances he missed in key games. Gyökeres was simply bought to finish those chances, right? And I don't think the style of play will change that much. I think look at Arteta's teams, it's all a solid base. They've got different solutions in the front areas, whether it's Marcelli, Trossard, Saka, Madueke, Odegaard. They've got solutions to score goals. So scoring the goals and a striker wasn't necessarily what hindered them from winning the Premier League because they came really close a couple of seasons ago. But he's just there to finish the chances. And you're right, I don't think they're playing to his strengths. But again, Arsenal don't play, particularly in the forward areas, they don't play that expansive football that maybe Sporting played. And that's why he hasn't scored as many goals this season. But it'll be interesting to see how he does get on there. But listen, AFCON's begun. Did you watch the Morocco game?
Yes, I tuned in for the second half. It's actually funny. I didn't actually realize that the AFCON had started. I was like, what the hell? It was meant to be in January. Like, how's it? Like, I thought it was a bit weird because I was like, national teams have already gone and done a friendly. I was like, isn't it a bit early for a friendly? And then I saw, oh snap, Morocco's opening game is tonight. I was like, damn, that's crazy. It totally missed me, But hey, that fella there, what a goal. Now, if that is not in like the Puskas goal scoring thing that they do, and it's not like at least in the top 5 goals, ranked, I don't know, man. That was a phenomenal finish. And what a pass, by the way. Oh my goodness. What a goal. Decent game. I'm looking forward to the rest of the games that are coming up. I think Morocco definitely are the favorites to win this, especially being at home as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the tournament plays out, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you there. I didn't even know. My dad told me yesterday, it starts today. I was like, it starts today. I thought it started in January. And then you go through the TV magazines and you see that, Morocco's actually starting. Yeah, you're right. It's a bit of a weird time to begin it because usually it's post-New Year. So maybe it starts earlier, finishes earlier. That might be the case. But no, you're right. I think Morocco were good. I think the goal was amazing. But again, we're talking about African Cup of Nations. It's still not viewed by the world as a major tournament. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. But you can't ignore that goal that he scored. It was a brilliant goal, and it would be interesting to see, how the rest of the teams do. So yeah, I think, is it 4 weeks the tournament is?
It is 4 weeks, and even 2:00 today, so in 15 minutes, we've got Mali versus Zambia, which is going to be another great game. Zambia.
It might not sound it on paper, but listen, anything can happen.
No. What's it? When did Zambia won the AFCON in 2012? So
yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Pedigree in the competition. They have pedigree in the competition. So, I am looking forward to that game because Zambia do have certain players. That I remember there was Charlie Musonda. He was a really good player. There was a Katongo as well. He was phenomenal, really, really good player. So, they do have some hidden gems there, that can actually ball out. So, I am looking forward to that.
Absolutely, man. But listen, Flexx, it's been great as always. Just something off topic here. I don't know if you saw the supposed, the fight between AJ and Jake Paul. I know you're a big boxing fan, big enthusiast. What did you make of that so-called fight?
Hey, I mean, look, man, people got to get paid, right? You know what I mean? And, I think, look, man, it's entertainment. You got to look at whatever Jake Paul does with the lens of WWE, it's WWE, but in this one you actually really can get hurt, and so
you can get hurt in WWE though, be honest.
No, you can, but it's scripted to an extent, and you're not trying to hurt someone, but you can get hurt. Whereas in boxing, you are trying to hurt somebody, and guess what? You could die. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of punishment that's being rendered. But look, man, I thought as a showcase of entertainment, it was cool. It brought a lot of eyes to female boxing because there were a load of females on the undercard as well. We also got to see legend, the Spider, Anderson Silva, fight at 50 years old and knocking out Tyron Woodley, So I think I watched the whole card from start to finish. It was decent, I thought it was a decent card. And the fight, look, Paul was running around the ring the whole time until he got tired. And if he didn't get tired, it would have gone to points because AJ just wouldn't have caught him, but he got tired and then he got stopped. And now he has to drink through a straw for 7 weeks or something like that, and that's why they say you don't play boxing, right?
Yeah, that is a good point. It's a good point. I mean, I think when the fight was made, people were concerned that if AJ wanted to, he could really damage Jake Paul. We saw with that one connection to his jaw, broke his jaw essentially. I mean, again, if AJ caught him with a couple more of those ones, we could be looking at somebody on life support, to be deadly serious. But you look at the fight, I thought the fight was what it was. I thought it was a professional boxer against somebody who wants to be a boxer. He's pretending to be a boxer. That was as simple as that, really, to be fair. And you're right, it brought a lot of eyes to the sport. Whether it damages the sport in any way in terms of its credentials and how legitimate it is, that's a different conversation for a different day. I'm sure we'll cover that at some point. But listen, Flexx has been good as always, man, to kind of do a last episode before Christmas. Guys, once again, we're on TikTok now. The handle is in the description below. Follow us on there. We do get all our content out there as well. Again, we're on Instagram. So if you haven't followed us already, please give us a follow. As always, like and subscribe. There's more content coming your way. And let us know in the comments, guys. Get in the comments. Engage with us. What do you think about African Cup? Who's going to win that tournament? What do you make of Morgan Rogers and Reece James? Should they be on the plane to England next year? Let us know in the comments what you think about our topics today. But as always, we appreciate your support massively. And Flexx, listen, have a good Christmas. I'm sure we'll be here post-Christmas after you've had your Supermort and all that.
Mate, and, got crates. I got crates.
That's what I love here, man. Supermort, guys. Yeah, also, guys, do you like Supermort? If you like Supermort, let us know in the comments down below. That's our go-to during Christmas, you know what I mean? So, but listen, appreciate as always, Flexx. Guys, have a good Christmas, and we'll see you just before the New Year, and also post-New Year as well.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure.